What's in a clutch kit? Yeah, good question. Hey, it's Robgillt, Capetownspares. Let's talk about clutch kits. Let's get to it, guys. So hey, yeah, if this video comes out a bit late, it's because the computer's packing up. I'll do an unboxing. We'll check it out. But yeah, what's in a clutch box? What's in a clutch kit? What do you actually get in a clutch kit, right? So you get different kind of clutch kits. You get what we call original equipment type clutch kits, which are more expensive. Generally comes in the look box, the sax box, that sort of thing. And it comes as a complete kit, and it normally costs more than the cheapies because the cheapies copy all their research and development, and they don't quite have the same quality in it. Hey, it's coffee with Rob, so we're having some coffee. But we prefer to sell the more quality parts, even though they are slightly more expensive. Now, what's in the box? Generally, most clutch kits, you're going to find your clutch plate. Now, this guy and his exhaust, wow. Every day, and he drives round the block. I can hear him every time. Anyway, what's in there is a clutch plate, a pressure plate, and a thrust bearing normally. But in some cases, the thrust bearing is not supplied with the clutch kit, depending on the car. So watch out for that. In those cases, you use the old thrust bearing or you buy the thrust bearing separately, and it's normally because it's a specialized type of thrust bearing. But your clutch plate, you get different sizes. So if you look on the descriptions, always look for the size, the outer diameter. Generally, it gives you the amount of splines in the middle of the center or the pivot side, and then you've got the actual inner diameter as well, where those splines are that go over the shaft. And then you've obviously sometimes you've got a guide which goes in. And you can guide the clutch plate over that onto the flywheel. Now, when you're putting your clutch plate on, always make sure that the flywheel is clean and or skinned, because sometimes if it's been metal to metal, you've damaged the flywheel, then it needs to be skimmed and cleaned up or replaced. Sometimes if it's just burnt, it might just need a polish, clean up, make sure that's done. And then you get your pressure plate inside the box, which is generally being protected by some kind of wax or oil or something to that effect. So what you've got to do is just take a little bit of meths or something like that and just clean it off. Alright, in the old days I think I even used a bit of petrol, but meths is better. Clean it off. Make sure the surface is clean before you put it on, even though it's brand new. Otherwise you're putting it on with an oily surface which was protecting it from rust in the box. Okay. So with a pressure plate, make sure you've done that, make sure you've cleaned it up, put it in nicely. Then all you've got to do when you put your clutch plate on is just line it up nicely over the clutch plate when you put it into the car. Easy stuff, right? So a pressure plate is generally there to move the clutch back and forward. So it's got the fingers on it, and the thrust bearing normally fits over onto those. If there's a thrust bearing in the box, there's not much to do with that except put it on in the end. It goes on the shaft in the gearbox housing itself. Make sure that's there so that when you put the gearbox on, it all goes together. Because without the thrust bearing, you don't have a clutch. You get different types of clutches. I mean, you get all these dual mass flywheels, and you get all these fantastic non-slip clutches and that sort of thing. That might be a bit complicated for some people. But the basic clutch is basically your clutch plate, your pressure plate, and your thrust bearing. Now you do get separate parts, and even we will sometimes sell a separate clutch plate, pressure plate. So if you just want to buy the clutch plate for economic reasons, you can. But keep in mind that sometimes the cause of your clutch problem might actually be the pressure plate. So you might go and do this whole job, put a clutch plate in, and still have a problem somewhere down the line, and you've got to do the job again. Alright. So a lot of guys will just change the clutch plate just to get away with it and save a few bucks because clutch plate's cheap. Don't change the pressure plate, and then somewhere down the line you pick up another problem and you've got to do the whole job over again. So it's really advisable to change both, at least the clutch plate and the pressure plate. Generally the thrust bearing, if it's not noisy and everything's okay and it's a long lasting thrust bearing, that's fantastic. You can leave it in there, it should be fine. But like I say, it's really important to actually change both as a kit if possible. But if you're buying cheap, you can buy a loose plate and a loose pressure plate, put it together. You get reconditioned pressure plates as well. So if you're trying to save money, there's that option. But generally the kit's the best scenario, and the original equipment type kits that Luke sell and the Sax sell and that sort of thing are actually the best. I prefer the Lukes. You open them up, everything's in there, everything that you need is available, and they generally always fit. That's quite important. So if you're looking for a kit like that, don't forget to go down to our shop and check it out. And if you're in the shop, you'll see there's a little thing at the top that says find by part number. You can go in there, look for the catalog for clutches, and you can actually check which part number that your clutch takes if you don't want to go into the vehicle thing. Because sometimes you go into the vehicle thing and you don't find it there and you're like, oh, they don't have it. You can actually just go into the find my part number thing and it might actually be available for your vehicle. Because sometimes a clutch kit that fits on a Peugeot will fit on a Toyota for some odd reason. And they use the same parts. So keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you've got any questions about cars, if you've got any questions about anything on cars or parts, why not drop them in the comments and ask. We'll get back to you, we'll answer them, and if we answer them with a video, that's great. If we answer them on the comments, we will. We always try and answer our comments as much as possible. It's Robgillt. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Till next time. Cheers.